Here we are. This is the first episode of the Hear Me Out podcast. Maybe it is. What are we calling this?
Something like that. You
so,
guys like to work out and talk about weird stuff, or two, one of the
so,
two.
so to preface this, I feel like we need to put a disclosure out there. Some sort of disclaimer. Um, Me and Seth don't know jack shit about fuck, but we like to learn and we pay attention to a lot of the things around us. I was in the military. Slank was in the
Mhm.
military. So we both have a lot of different perspectives on things that your average person doesn't. Since the
Yeah.
military, Seth has become an IFBB pro, spent how many years training?
I started working out at the end of 2008 with my friend Kevin from down the street.
Okay, so at the end of 2008. And I think what's really interesting about the conspiratorial side of fitness is that everything we were told by doctors and by coaches and stuff, we ended up proving wrong. So we're already off the original path that most people are on because
Right.
you specifically are attaining and achieving things that you were told were not possible. You can't be that big, you can't lift that much, and you
Yeah.
did. So the conspiracy side of us is really just because we're open to anything. If we
Oh,
see something, we trust our eyes and we go, okay, well, that must be true. I saw it.
right. Right.
So I feel like we should start with the Balenciaga.
Balenciaga. Okay.
So what did you know about Balenciaga prior to last week?
Bro, I didn't even never knew what Balenciaga clothing was, to be honest. I just hear people rap about it and shit like that. But I mean, I don't ever follow a lot of like mainstream like stuff. And like I see it every once in a while on Instagram, but I'm not like in it watching Hollywood news and so's dating so and so broke up and all that jazz.
Okay, so I think what you just said is honestly the very right thing is that this company Balenciaga, I never paid attention to. I always looked at them as like a Versace, a Louis Vuitton,
Right,
one of those brands that you buy to let people know that you have money, and
right.
the stuff looks really fucking stupid. But you were talking about the rich people in Hollywood,
Yeah.
so that's why I feel like the Balenciaga Baal child trafficking, child exploitation, they just threw this in the face of everybody in America. And they just said, hey, these rich people in Hollywood that buy this rich brand, they're into fucking weird stuff with kids, man. And that's something,
Yeah.
and that's something that, guys like me have been kicking and screaming about for years, human trafficking, pedophilia, the satanic pedophile cults, which we'll get into the word Satan later. But now with Balenciaga being in your face of this chick. You saw the picture of the girl holding like the babies with like the blood all over them and stuff. And you can't hide these things. And the reason it's such an interesting topic right now is that same designer, I forget her name, that who did that photo shoot, I guess, for Balenciaga, is
Right.
also an Adidas designer.
Oh,
So Kanye makes one comment and Adidas throws him to the wolves, throws him to the wolves. And now they have a designer openly promoting the trafficking and demonization of children, exploitation of children, and nobody's done a damn thing about it.
right.
So the reason I feel like this is such an amazing topic, and a lot of people are going to try to blow over it and just keep moving forward. And I feel like it's a conversation that needs to be pushed into the front of everybody, because if now you have a straight up connection between Hollywood and the occult, and there's clearly a different set of rules that everybody is playing by. Kanye has a different set of rules than Balenciaga is playing by. I am getting shadow banned on Instagram right now when I post about Balenciaga.
Right. Just when I share Andrew Tate stuff, my like, dude, I have 34,000 I've lost some followers, but like my story views when I start posting, like if I'm trying to promote my brand or if I'm posting like anything that they don't agree with, my story views are like 100 and like 200 or
Mhm.
less. And I'm
And
like, How in the world, dude?
And for you, it's a very easy thing to decide why they're doing that. Your brand, because you're in health and sports nutrition, you were labeled as pseudo pharmaceuticals
Yeah.
because
Yeah, that's what they removed my payment processor. You're right. Yeah.
so you got to think about it. They look at a guy like you and you're talking about some truthful stuff, or at least you're inquiring, you're asking some questions,
Yeah.
and you also know how to provide a healthier lifestyle for pretty much anybody that crosses your path that's willing to work with you. You are everything the New World Order hates. You're
Right.
asking questions. You're letting people become healthy. You're showing people the ways to become healthy. They don't want that. So let me ask you this: why do you think there is such this evil stuff taking place? Is there some big conspiracy going on behind the scenes?
I there I mean, dude, there has to be, bro. There's always just like there's too many coincidences and for all this stuff to just happen to just be, oh, it's a coincidence or whatever. Like you line up like everything, like
Mhm.
from the 9/11 stuff to these school shootings to all these things, they just don't make sense. Like, were you the one telling me about the Titanic was inside job too?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Was that 1912, then 1913, the Federal Reserve started because they put a guy on the boat that owned 40% of the real estate, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah. Yeah, dude. It just, and then too, and I remembered this too, was like with my social media stuff and what I post. Once my TikTok got so big, they shut down my Slinkomania link. But now I have less followers and now my link works. Don't you find that to be odd?
Well, I think it goes down to, and let me take a pause with that and step back and say, I know it's a conspiracy at hand. And I know because I've been paying attention for so long. And I like to simplify it for everybody. If there's good, then there's evil.
Yeah.
Right. And everything really kind of ties down to one of those two things. Is what you're doing good for people or is it bad for people? Now, I was raised in the Jewish faith. I was bar mitzvahed. I went to a Jewish school from third grade till I graduated high school. Can read and write Hebrew. I can, I've done rabbinical studies, all that sort of stuff. Very, very Old Testament knowledgeable. And I know you were brought up in a bit of a religious way too, more on the Christianity side. And I
Right.
tell everybody, let's look at these books, at least from my perspective, as historical documents. Let's look at what was written and let's dissect this stuff. Balenciaga. If you add the A,
Voila. Oh, yeah, you're
you add
right.
the A, and it means Baal is king. Now, Baal is a name that many people aren't really very familiar with, but it is mentioned in the second book of Kings, right off rip. Okay, and Baal Zebub, as it is written, was the entity of, I believe, the Moabite people. Or let me check the notes. I had it written down. I got ready for this.
I got ready.
So he was the Lord of Edom, okay, which was in the land of Canaan. Okay. This is a time that we talk about in the Old Testament. We're talking about because I believe Elijah died at about 849 BC. So we're talking about 850 to 950 before Christ time period. And if you've read the Bible before, you know it's a crazy time. You got child sacrificing, human sacrificing. You have all these different entities taking place, one of which, a very powerful being, was named Baal. So when you go and you read those books, if you look at them as a historical document, and not to, we won't go through the whole scripture and bore anybody, but Elijah slaughtered the followers of the cult of Baal in Wadi Kishon, in which some survivors did escape, and they never in the book brought an ending to the life of the demon Baal. So when you go take that step back now to all the things you mentioned, the school shootings, 9/11, Balenciaga. If it's good versus evil, wouldn't it just be on a simple form to go, okay, if I'm praying to the good guy and this Baal guy's the bad guy, and maybe there's something going on and there's a religion of sort still going to this day.
Right.
And a lot of people will say, well, Zach, that's absolutely crazy. But is it? I mean, look around at this point in time. I mean, it started out with hashtag Epstein didn't kill himself. And now we're talking about pedophile cults on Fox News. So where does this go? Well, I want to ask you, where does this go? Does society acknowledge it? I mean, we're having conversations now that we wouldn't have had 3 years ago.
But I feel like most people, they just, for one, they don't care. Number two, they just think that they literally follow. They're in the matrix. They just listen to whatever the news tells them, just like getting the COVID shot or whatever. Like, this is good for you. This is what you need to do. Blah blah blah. They don't want to think on the other side of the coin. It's just they just listen to what they're told from school to the news to whatever, and that's just the plan they're going to follow.
I agree, but I do see, there's no two people are the same, right? And I try very hard not to categorize people anymore, because that's what they want us to do. They want us to categorize people. They want us to not, get to know and hear each other's sides. My mom, and I love using her as an example, she's 19 years older than me. I'm 30, so she's 49, and she is from that generation of the Rage Against the Machine libertarian generation that turned into communists, with the Bernie sticker on the back of the car, the whole nine. They started out as do what you want, do what you do, and, don't overtax us, we'll be fine. Now it turned into go get the shot, or, you're an evil human. I think a lot of that generation, it's truthfully too emotionally disturbing for them to say, okay, they've always kind of known, all right, there's pedophiles, these things happen, it'll show up on the news once a month, and there's only one person in, every couple of square miles, and you got to watch out for them, which we know is that's not the case. And it's a very, very disturbing thing to go, wait a minute. Is there a chance that all of these elites in Hollywood that are interacting with these elites in Washington, D.C., that have control over being able to move people throughout the world, literally, like when you have access to unlimited money and resources, it's not a far-fetched thing to say, yeah, they threw somebody on a plane and flew them over. I think that people of that age and generation cannot fathom how evil the evil side really is. So I think that, yes, some people just, they're floating along, they're doing what they're told, but I do feel like there's a whole large percent of the population who's seen now, all the stuff coming out, because you're looking at Balenciaga posts on Fox News, you're seeing it everywhere, and now going, nope, it's not real. You know what I mean? It's nope.
Right.
And that's what I see is happening, but I don't think that they can hide like that any longer. I don't.
Well, what are they gonna do, bro?
Well, they're gonna limit information just like they did to you. They're going to limit the ability to monetize your own platform. The second you reached a certain number, they said, you're not making money here anymore.
Yeah, you literally click my link and it says this website is not safe. And I'm like,
so not only do they not link it, but they bash you for it.
Yeah.
And now,
it's not safe.
And if you think about that, now, if somebody's never heard of you and they click that link, boop, Slankomania, not safe. Well, right. I guess that's not safe. That means you gave the power to TikTok or to Instagram to tell you what is and what isn't safe. And that leads us to a bigger conversation of, when are we going to stop letting people make decisions for us?
I have no idea. They just people are just blindly they're like sheep, bro. They just do whatever they're told.
So let me ask you this, right? So we got this whole Balenciaga thing taking place, and I think it's a very, very good topic because it's forcing people to have it. You got Kanye openly talking about how his mother was sacrificed. He's coming out saying, hey, Jay-Z, I never killed anybody, so they don't have me by the balls. And everybody's like, but at the same time, you have Maricopa County, Arizona, and everything happening in Arizona, which is such blatant election malfeasance. So, we're in this spot of like, okay, they're informing us. Everybody's becoming more aware, but they're also letting us know on the other side, hey, we still own the elections. There's nothing you can do.
Right.
So do you think that as truth moves forward, that which way do you think it's going to turn?
I hope more people start to think for themselves, but I just feel like people are still going to mindlessly follow whatever they say. Like, I feel like there's a few of us like you and I that are going to like go against the grain and like do our own thing and know that actually what's going on and call it out. But for the majority of people, like, they're just going to continue to do what they do.
I agree with that statement, with the emphasis being on that statement's true as of right now.
Yeah.
And as time moves forward, I do think that more people will start to open clearly. But let me ask you this, because we already mentioned 9/11. You were in the military. You joined after 9/11. I was in the military. I joined after 9/11. And both of us are guys that can sit here and openly say 9/11 was an inside job. Now, combined between you and I, that's 15 years of service. That's thousands of hours of posts, I'm sure, thousands of hours of being on duty. How is it that guys like us were so easily able to look at the facts and say, okay, wow, that happened. We were lied to. When there's other people out there that never served, never signed on the dotted line, who just don't even know 9/11 was not an inside job. How do you approach that?
These people, they literally just listen to the media, bro. I just think that's just what it all comes down to. Like, that you can't convince them otherwise. They have no outside thinking. They're just like, this is what I'm told, this is what I believe, and they can't think on the level that we think,
You think they're screwed forever?
Yeah, I think they are.
Really?
Unless they can actually like have an open mind and like literally think about these things and why they happened. And oh, if you say this, and they can get an idea of what you're saying and put some pieces together, and then they can come up with a new idea and a new belief, then yeah, then maybe they can change their mind.
So I think that only comes. So because of cell phones now, we've fooled every human. All right. Before cell phones existed, if you saw something and you saw it happen, that happened. That's real. Nowadays, you can look at your phone and get told there's racism, there's this, there's that.
Well, they want you to hear what they want you to hear. Like, they won't tell you all the good things that happen on the news, but they'll tell you that freaking these black dudes in Chicago shot up blah blah blah, and we need more gun laws and all this other stuff.
And then I go and I look outside, and that's not real.
So like the story you said when you were deployed.
Yeah.
Kevin story. Oh, there's riots. There's like, there ain't no riots.
Yeah, no, I'll say that this is the place to have that conversation. Yeah. So the reason I started looking into things and being weird, summer of 2014, I was in Sinai, Yemen. You can look this all up. It's I'm sure there's YouTube videos of what was happening there, but Al Jazeera and CNN were what were playing in the chow hall in there, and they told us that there were riots in the streets of Sana'a. And I'm like, oh, let me go peek out the window. No, there's not. But like 2 or 3 days later, there were. And that's where shit got, that's where it's like, okay, wait a minute. How did this information that took place in this small fucking country, literally thousands and thousands of miles away from anywhere, where literally a proxy wars between Iran and Saudi Arabia being fought on that land? How is it that CNN and Al Jazeera knew about these riots days before they happened? I didn't even get it from an intel brief, bro.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And that right there is when I said to myself personally, this is summer of 2014. Summer of 2014, when I was in Yemen, is the first time I heard the word cabal, was the first time I heard the word cult of Baal. First time I even heard the words Baal. First time I heard about Hillary Clinton killing babies and drinking blood was the summer of 2014. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I mean, fuck, anything could be true, dude. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I mean, but I'm sitting there taking in that information as somebody that just watched, a grenade get thrown into a wedding ceremony by a rival family. So I'm sitting there and, your thoughts are different when you're in a third world country and you're like, well, I guess that could happen.
Yeah.
I'm listening to a call for prayer 5 times a day. So I'm seeing firsthand in Yemen, which is, we saw it in Afghanistan too, but a land that is just ran by religion, and we look at ourselves as these high and mighty people off here in America, like, we don't, we separate the church from the state. We, the reason we're in the Middle East is to keep all those bad Arabs from coming over here. Like, are you kidding me? We're the ones over there. They're not coming over here.
Right.
It makes no sense. But when you hear about that weird conspiratorial things while standing on a post in Yemen, with the Chinese embassy up the road, the Canadian embassy up the road, working with Delta Force guys pretty much explaining to me like, hey, we train the Yemeni special forces because we can't kick the door in first. So it has to be that. So I started hearing about all this just weird governmental things taking place while first hearing about like the conspiracy realm of it all. And I believe this is around the time that like Benghazi happened too. So like the words Hillary Clinton were like buzzwords in the military. You remember that? It was like, fuck Hillary, fuck Hillary.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember.
And I kind of like pocketed that information. I kind of just took it with a grain of salt, just kept chugging along with my life up until COVID. So you have that gap from like 2014 to 2020 of me being like, just kind of being a little bit vigilant on like, okay, this seems a little fucking weird. You know what I mean? Like, all right,
Yeah.
this Iran deal is a little weird, you know what I mean? Or one of my favorites, which I'll go into real quick because it'll help like set the frame of why I've been going down the rabbit hole. And it was 2008. I was in the 8th grade, as you were. Sorry, I was in the 8th. I think it was the 8th grade. It might have been 2006. Sorry, 2006. Daniel Cantor Woltz, Jewish kid, went to my school. He was 2 years older than me. He was in 10th grade. I was in 8th grade. Goes to a Sbarro in Tel Aviv with his dad. He's in Israel. Asshole comes and blows the place up. Okay. So it was right before my trip to Israel for my 8th grade school trip to Israel. All the parents were like, I don't know. Do we want to send our kids? It could be dangerous. My parents, they asked me, they said, Zach, you want to go? I said, I'm not scared of shit. Let's go. So we go over there. We visit him in the hospital. They'd already taken his first leg. And long story short, they ended up taking the second leg a few weeks later, and I believe he died on Mother's Day.
Oh my God.
13, 14 years old. Okay. Now there's a lot of things that happened on that trip to Israel that got us to this point today, but let me explain to you. So after that happened, Daniel Cantor Woltz's family sued the Bank of Syria, the Bank of China, and they sued one other place. But at the time, Benjamin Netanyahu and Barack Obama had decided that they are not allowed to sue the Bank of China. Now, let me ask you this. What the fuck does China have to do with an Islamic extremist killing an American Jew in Israel in 2006? You get what I'm getting at here? And why would they say you can't sue China? This is back in the day.
Yeah.
You know? So that started having me go, whoa.
Well, that's weird.
Yeah. And then the other thing was, and I tell this story more frequently now, when I went to the Western Wall, the West Wall of the Second Holy Temple, I walked up to the wall. I'm looking at it, and it's an amazing thing if you've never been. And they tell you you're not supposed to turn your back to the wall. Well, we have seeing, sight, smell, hearing, touch, feel, whatever our 5 senses are. But I think that we can all agree, and especially if you're watching this right now, there are a lot more than 5 senses. I stood facing the wall. And I turned around and now my back was to it. And I got lit up, bro. I was like, I didn't know how to explain it. I didn't tell the story because I'm like, this is fucking weird. Like, I'm like charged up right now. Like, whoa. And I realized that's because I was facing an entire fucking nation of people's prayers. Because wherever you are in the world, you direct your prayers to the Western Wall. And I thought to myself, man, I can never talk about that. That's fucking weird.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And I just kind of knew. And now fast forward to my time in the military. And we talked about this before, but for everybody out there that's never been in the military, never used night vision, you need to understand there's something called infrared, okay? IR. It is naked to the invisible eye. You cannot see it. You could have IR flashing all through here right now. You cannot see it. The second you don your night vision, there's an entire world. It doesn't just amplify light and allow you to see in the dark. It sees infrared. So the first time I did one of those night field ops where I looked out with the naked eye and I saw nothing going on. And then I flipped the nods on and it's fucking Star Wars. And you're like, holy shit. I said to myself, so there's actual things that are real that are taking place around me that I cannot see.
Right. We worked on those every once in a while.
Yeah, so you know what I'm saying? You start seeing this technology. You start seeing this technology that is proving things to you that you just kind of go, well, I mean, we didn't learn about that in school.
No, they just wanted. I think I was talking to my mom about this the other day, and It was just like they just teach you things that like don't even get you ready for the real life. They just kind of just give you a bunch of bullshit subjects for whatever reason. Like when I was thinking about this the other day before I talked to her about it, and I was like, what did I learn in school that I'm actually applying right now to
Math,
make me money?
algebra,
Math.
algebra.
Yeah. Well, now you got calculators.
Yeah, I mean, you know me, I'm a math whiz. I always do things on the fly. School in the education industry, in my opinion, if you look at how it's been set up since the beginning of time, in the beginning of our time in the United States, it was set up by, I believe, the Rockefellers. You know, I'm not going to throw any info out there unless I can back it up. I'm 90% sure it was, I think, like David Rockefeller, my buddy Chris, who's could provide a lot more information on that. But let's really take a pause. Okay, let's take a real quick pause and a timeout. I don't believe that it's 2022.
What year do you think it is?
I don't think it matters. I think it's a lie. I think that the idea of it being 2022 is based on the idea that humans have been on the planet for 7,000 years. I think that that is retarded. I think that that is on its own, accepting that it's 2022 and then conforming to that idea locks you into the matrix. All right, yeah, it's 2022. Got to go to work. Got to pay my bill. You know what I mean? To me, you know, like I said, being raised in the Jewish faith, there's something definitely going on with the lunar cycle. There's something, which was the original calendar that we were on. I
That
just,
must you think, yeah.
yeah, I mean, we can flat Earth, hollow Earth, all those conversations we can save, you know, for other podcasts. But I just think to myself, you know, what's happening today and what's happening around us, because I'm a big believer that it's happening because of evil. Is happening to be able to separate us from nature as well as separate us from knowing what our true purpose is and our true existence is. You know, I say it all the time. I mean, tell me what you first said about Jesus in your life, which is what made this whole thing start.
Oh, so you're only the second person I've ever told this to, and this sounds really strange, but
It's not strange.
I said to you, I saw this movie as when I was a kid. I don't remember what it was. But it was like you know, Jesus coming back, and then people that were saved, they go up to heaven, and then they have the rest of these people on earth and whatever it was. But I always figured that, did you just smoke weed?
Yeah.
I always thought that I wasn't going to die, that I was just going to go to heaven without dying. And I told one other guy that before, this kid named Xander, and he's like, bro, I felt the same way since I was a kid. And I'm like, that's really strange. And then I told it to you, and then you were on the same page, and I'm like, this is so weird.
And what I think is really weird about my perspective of it is, you got to remember, I was raised as a Jew. I was raised on the 5 books of Moses. Now, I'm not big on organized religion. I'm not. I've read an abridged version of the Quran. I've never read the full one. It was like a short one. I got it at the USO, actually. I read it when I was in Afghanistan, because I was like, I want to learn this shit. Like, you know me, I love learning. I'm like, let me hear it. You know? And I've always been a quantum rabbit hole guy, right? You know, I've always thought Albert Einstein was very interesting. I was thrown out of my Torah school when I was 5 years old or 6 years old, or however old I was, because when they explained Adam and Eve in the book of Genesis, it just didn't sit with me. I'm like, all right, well, okay, hold on. You know, so what happened before that? You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I've always kind of been chasing that, and had really great conversations over the years with some really awesome rabbis and really great, you know, religious leaders that have helped, you know, provide a lot of insight on, you know, especially the book of Genesis for me. But I want to start out with, this is something that this is a quote on my own that I came up with that has helped me with the concept of not only death, but, you know, what we're doing here. If energy cannot be created nor destroyed, it is highly irresponsible of us to think that our existence began at our physical birth on this planet, on this timeline. And what I mean by that is, whatever this divine spark is that's in us, right? It's beyond just the physical being, right? And I've had crazy dreams throughout my life, bro. I've had crazy deja vu moments throughout my life. I've had crazy synchronicities over the past 2-3 years with just the numbers popping up and being like, hey, let me call Slank. Well, Slank's calling me. Like, as that happened earlier today.
Bro, I'm like that all the time. I'll think of somebody and they'll text me like within 30 seconds.
And now I always say that, like, that's not crazy because we're holding these devices, okay, that you
Yeah.
know is connected to a wireless frequency to look, hold your phone up, right? You have your phone right here.
Yeah.
This is connected and we're 2,500 miles away. So is it really that crazy for people to be like, oh yeah, I knew who was texting me right before? No, because I say it all the time. If the speed of sound is what 730 miles an hour, whatever it may be, and you're over 2,000 miles away from me, how the fuck are we having a conversation right now, man?
Instantly, yeah.
But no, and I do think, as I'm starting to get high, this is when the talks get good when we start to debate. I
Yeah.
just, dude, you know, talking about what you said about not dying in Jesus. You know how many people I like just kind of like drop that on like politely in conversation just to see how they react. Like I'm
Yeah.
at Truist the other day, open up that bank account, right?
Yeah.
Lady, she was probably an older Jamaican lady. She was awesome. You know what I mean? Like if you're from South Florida, you'll understand that like when they tried to pitch this racist shit at us, we were all like, bro, we're from Florida. Like we don't do that racist shit, bro. Like we're University of Miami fans or you're Florida State fans. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we care about
Yeah.
what football team you like. And
Yeah.
so we're sitting there and she's like, yeah, the world's getting crazy out there. And I'm just like, yep, Jesus will be here any day now. And she's like, right? So, okay. So, okay. And then I'll drop it. Oh, where else did I drop it? I mean, I think I was getting at Fran's Fried Chicken a few weeks ago. And yeah. It was like somebody like peeling out in the parking lot. And the guy I was with was like, yeah, it's Joe Biden's America. And something like that. And I was like, yeah, well, Jesus will be back any day now. And I say it, people are like, you know what I mean? And I'm just kind of like, okay, really, really, really think about this, man.
Yeah.
How many people that you know weren't raised on religion?
Well, I feel like a lot of people are, or they were, but then they don't believe anything at all and they're super science based, or they just don't really practice it anymore or anything.
So, you know what really got me about it?
What?
Um, I was a devout atheist. I was a self-proclaimed atheist throughout all of high school.
That's what you were saying.
And up until Rabbi Avi Jablon, I know his last name was Jablon, phenomenal rabbi, phenomenal teacher, young guy. I think he was like, probably like late 20s, early 30s, had a couple of kids already, a traditional rabbi.
Yeah.
And he handled me so well, dude. He was because I was such a little shit kid and I'm smart and I say shit and I'm fucked up. And he would just sit there and smile and just take it. And he goes, so Zach, let me ask you, Zach, if you're an atheist, then you believe all of this happened by chance. And I was like, fuck, I don't know. He goes, you think photosynthesis? You think photosynthesis happened by chance? Mitochondria in the cell, the human body. I was like, he's like, it's pretty crazy design, don't you think? I was like, yeah, it actually, yeah. I was like, it's pretty wicked. Yeah. Yeah. He goes, something must have created it. And I was like, something must have created it. I was like, okay, I'm with it. He's like, get rid of the word God. He's like, it's a buzzword. It brings all this other stuff with it. You know what I mean? And it's just a word. It's just a word.
Yeah.
He said, let's go with the term creator. Can we agree something must have created this? And I was like, absolutely. He goes, can you look at this? Like there's science principles that say, something that is, something cannot create something more complicated than itself.
Right.
And remember, anything can be proven wrong. But I said, okay. And he said, so wouldn't it almost not make sense for us to be able to figure out, Princess, for us to be able to figure out what created us, but to just accept that something did? And I was just like, I remember that specific story because you got to remember that happened 12, 13 years ago. And I remember that like specifically. And there's a lot of things that happened in high school that I don't remember. Like I have a very shot memory from, being in the Marines. But that really stuck with me. And now, I swallowed that concept, and then I joined the Marines. I didn't talk about religion or anything like that for a while. And I
Yeah.
got out, and then I started doing research. And I'd always been into Ancient Aliens. Everybody watched that show. Everybody loved that show.
Yeah.
So I took it a step further because I'd actually been to these places now in the Middle East. And if that's and we'll save this for other stories, but the things that we've seen in the Middle East, really, like, for the guys that have seen things that are out there, like, it doesn't make sense. The way the weather is, the way the skies move, the way it's just it's fucking weird, right? So, we make it to now, and we look at ancient aliens and then religion and all these things that I like knew at different points in my life, and then the term extraterrestrial was broken down as otherworldly to me, and then I was like, well, Jesus was otherworldly, and then it all just was like, bang, like, it's all the same. Don't live in this mental construct where you have religion, where you have aliens, where you have this, because that's the school of thought that they wanted us to have. That's what the media, that's what the movies, that's what everything's been about. And I just realized, let me go based off what I've experienced and really try to, and it's tough, but really try to cut out the things that I've seen in movies and go only based off what I've experienced, what I determined to be a vetted educational piece, you know what I mean? And then going off the experiences of other people that I've met, and I think that that's what got me to this point. And I think that that's why more podcasts and conversations of this spiritual, religious, alien realm are coming about, because I really just think that people are so tired of the divisiveness, because I think that people are meant to love each other. So I think everybody's kind of saying, you look at Judaism's got its, Kabbalah, and I say it's Jewish mysticism. Christianity has the Holy Spirit. Every religion, if you can really start looking back at all these religions, they're all telling very, very, very similar stories with very certain storylines that we see that are recurring over and over again. And then now we start seeing things like the Sirius A and B being the brightest star in the sky being lined up to the Great Pyramids. And then new studies coming out showing, wait a minute, those pyramids have been here, the Sphinx has been here for 11,600 years. Wait a minute, that goes against everything we ever told. So now we're in this very, very interesting predicament where it's 2022, and because of everything that happened during COVID, nobody trusts the traditional news sources for information. And now all these alternative sources for information are coming out, and there's very, very, very influential and credible sources disproving what we were taught in school today, right now. The Graham Hancock, ancient apocalypse, that's the top of the iceberg kind of thing for me. But for most people just kind of going down the rabbit hole, when I've made statements like, this is not the most advanced time in civilization, and people always been like, yeah, how can you say that? We used to be cavemen. I'm like, to this day, we couldn't build the pyramids. It would take, you know what I mean? Like, right. So, and I'm just being logical. I'm looking at it, and they do the math of what it weighs and how long it would take. And I'm like, okay, why do we have, look at the Nazca lines. How do you explain those? And all these bullshit answers that haven't held any consistency over, the past, however many years, are now getting an answer given to them. Right. And that's what I think is really interesting. And that, going back to the Balenciaga stuff, going back to Maricopa County, I think this is their last hurrah. I think this is their last fucking attempt to hang on to the stronghold of evil, because people aren't dealing with it anymore. Me and you are having this conversation right now. This would have never happened 3 years ago. No, that we actually, this is the first time we've had this sort of conversation and recorded it, but you and I actually believe that there is a realm of people into fitness, into bodybuilding, into lifting weights, into getting healthy, into achieving a better version of themselves, that would want to absorb this sort of content because they think this way. And that tells me that so many people think this way. So
I feel like a lot of bodybuilders think just like you and I. They're very conservative. They have the same type of thoughts. Mm-hmm. I've noticed a lot of bodybuilders are not really big on tons of religion. I've noticed that.
Big on energy and positivity. And that's the one thing I was the hype guy everywhere I went. I was the hype guy on my high school football team. I was the hype guy, you know, even in college. And I sucked in college. I was on the practice squad. You know what I mean? It was after I got out of the Marines. Like my hips couldn't move anymore, bro. Like I wasn't the player I was, you know, before I was in the Marines, but I was the hype man. I was the guy bringing fucking pre-workout in the locker room, and everyone's like, "What the fuck?
Let's go."
Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm the one that's like, listen, coach, you really want me to write down my weights in the off season that we're recording? Because it's going to look a little sketchy if you get what I'm saying. And he was just like, God damn it, Leeds. To this day, Tony Pedrotti, talk to him, love him. He likes use arms and different things. Like but he was like the offensive line coach. He was the offensive line coach at Maritime. But I think with bodybuilders, you learn like, okay, and this is the thing that this is how I thought at one point. I was like, all right, I have this vial.
Yeah.
And it is testosterone. Okay. Now testosterone is the male hormone for everything. You know, it is like all things that are male trait derived, you know, kind of stem from this oil. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, this is a bottle of an oil of a man. Like, I'm like, just kind of like thinking about this. And then I start, you know, through the years, I think the highest test cycle, like test amount I had once, like 1150, because I was at like 500 deca. I used to have to have a really high test to deca ratio, and I hated it. Didn't last very long. It was very wet. I don't like to be that high, but it was realizing like that. Holy shit! There's a liquid that I can put inside my body that literally. And if anybody says testosterone doesn't have a psychoactive effect, that's completely not true, because obviously the male sex hormone is going to change the way that you think. And that really started blowing my mind. I was like, this isn't a mental medication. This is something that changes my mind, and it changes my body, and it makes me healthier. And I was like, that's really like, that blows my fucking.
It can mess with your mental stuff too, but in a good way. And sometimes
no, that's what I'm saying, in a good way.
Because you can feel more confident in and all this other stuff.
That's what I'm trying to tell you, is that as a person that's been in sales for years, in that in my time, you know, I was looking back at pictures of me when I was working at Redcon, and there's pictures of me posing, and I was like 225. And I thought I was like this tiny little shit, because I'm hanging out with guys like fucking Steve Kuklo and Luke fucking Sando. And, you know, it's all about perspective, right? And I 100% felt like I couldn't not be on gear at that time. I needed to be on test so that I could be on top of my game mentally, physically, so that I could have that confidence walking into the Dick's Sporting Goods meeting of, you know, I look the part. I'm here to do business. This is what I do, you know? Now, but to, you know, obviously conversely to the negative side effects, but the negative side effects can obviously be mitigated with, you know, countermeasures. But when you talk about balance in your life, I feel, in my opinion, unless you're a competing athlete, if you're on HRT, you have, you know, something you have to get right, you know, you got to do what you got to do to get the paperwork on the blood panel look the way it's supposed to. To me, I use just enough tests where I don't have to use anything else. Like, where at most I'm throwing in 20 milligrams of like Nolvadex randomly. And because of, hear me out, if I go too far, I'm not a balanced person.
Yeah. And
I lose my head. And then that's when I start paying attention to like stupid things. I look for things to get mad at. You know what I mean? That's a no, seriously, we're not just like that energy dump of like, now I let it, you know, suck me back into the matrix when I get angry. And that I can't do that anymore. I hate it. You know, it doesn't, like what you were saying about bodybuilding anymore. Like, I totally related to it. Like, you want to get a higher bowling score? Like, bro, go after something. You're a fucking athlete, motherfucker. I want to see you on fucking TV bowling. Like, who gives a fuck about bodybuilding? You know, it's, I think that everybody, they look for something out of the sport of bodybuilding. And I don't want to knock anybody that is a bodybuilder that's become a pro. So many of my friends have been pro bodybuilders. Brent Swanson, who's probably one of the nice guys I've ever met.
He's so big.
Bro, so big.
He's so big. He's really nice too. I like him.
Pictures don't do him justice, dude. And I've seen him.
Yeah, I think, did we do the same? I'm thinking maybe we did the
2018.
same. I don't remember.
4 times, and I watched him. I believe I was there when he went pro.
I think I saw him at the Tampa Pro, but I think he turned pro that year. 2008.
Yeah, I remember telling him that, you know, he was my favorite non-pro. Because he was my favorite, you know, my favorite amateur bodybuilder. But I don't even know how do we even get on that topic. Fucking.
I don't know. We're talking about testosterone, and then we're talking about
Oh
whatever.
yeah. So, and that's this really interesting thing is I've noticed now, right? So you have HRT clinics that are doing testosterone and pitching healthy lifestyles. You have psilocybin fucking Instagram, profiles all over the place of, take psilocybin, try psilocybin, this, that, and the other. And now, you got, weed clinics all over the place, but that's kind of almost old news now. It's 2022. Weed, yeah, that's old news. Yeah. It's not taboo anymore. Grandma smokes weed. And now, but no, but I'm being serious. So you get to this like realization now that like, holy crap, testosterone, weed, and psilocybin, frequencies all around us, connecting us by our devices.
Right.
Weird deja vu type moments.
I have deja vu so much. It's retarded. And I see 333, 111, 1212. I see these now 1111.
1111. Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan. Remember, I got that code. Yesterday. I sent you. What was it? 2366699. I'm like, that's weird.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And so that was such a crazy thing, though, is when you really start going down the rabbit hole. And I tell everybody, go down the rabbit hole, don't stop. Because if you get halfway down the rabbit hole and you stop, you're going to be in a really dark fucking place. You know what I mean?
Well, the first time I smoked like weed and stuff like that, and my mind started opening up and I started really thinking in like different levels. And then I'm like, I feel like I got to a point where I couldn't get to a different level because I couldn't.
And that's when I told you need to start microdosing and having more and actually doing real research. Like when I started going and learning, like, all right, about the Anunnaki, let's learn about them. We're just gonna brief cover. This is episode 1 because I'll put the notes together and we can go into the whole fucking thing. But I'd heard about the Anunnaki, learned about the Anunnaki. I learned about Enki and Enlil. And the whole story about how realistically Enki was more than likely the serpent in the Garden of Eden who genetically altered us as humans, our second chromosome, which gave us free thought, free will, and everything, to get us out of the Garden of Eden. And that story is being told in the way that the serpent is the bad guy. And I said, wait a minute. So the serpent is the good guy. Wait a minute. Okay. And that's why, going back to Balenciaga, I want to, draw that Satan and Baal are two different things, people. Baal is mentioned in the Bible. Baal is mentioned by name in the Bible on many occasions, and is active at that time. I don't believe anything is written from the perspective of Baal in the writings, but there's multiple perspectives of him. And
so this is what I don't get. So when we started going to church when I was a little kid, it was always New Testament. So I was never even told anything about the Old Testament. And they're like, oh, well, that doesn't matter.
And that's because
the birth of Jesus, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, what about all the stuff before?
So I believe that monotheism was put into place, which is when we go look at that, the flow chart of the cult of Baal, monotheism is used to divide the people. That they want you thinking that astrology is retarded. They want you thinking all these things are dumb when there's literally so much shit tied to it that we can prove. I believe that the Old Testament was written by an evil God. The God of Passover that comes there and kills the firstborn children of all the that never sat well with me, man. And so that's why I kept digging. Honestly, that's why I kept digging, because it just never sat well with me. And especially, being able to read Hebrew, and mind you, biblical Hebrew is a little bit different than spoken Hebrew, but like being able to read and see the differences, like the word Elohim. So the suffix yud mem in Hebrew means plural. So like yeladim, like children versus child, right? I think I got that one right. And I remember you hear Elohim in Eliyahu or whatever his name is, one of the God names of God. And I remember being like, why is God plural? And they said, well, because it means God, God's everywhere. And I'm like, or there's more gods. You know what I mean? I'm like, or it means what literally the translation of "im" means, and you're just trying to make some like weird spin on it and be like, oh well, this rabbi said this at this point, and I'm over here I'm taking it a little bit more literally than you. Like, okay, because all these other things that I'm learning about history are saying that there are these multiple entities at bay, and even when you go and you look at the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, so you have this creator and then you have the Holy Spirit realm underneath. And that's why, like I said, I like to look at all of, they've removed the book of Enoch from all of religion, and Enoch lived to 365 years and arose to the heavens and never came back. Like, and the way it's worded is very easily mistaken. And it's Eric von Daniken, who wrote Chariot of the Gods, said, that's clearly extraterrestrials. He went with aliens somewhere, so it could be aliens, could be whatever. I think the point being, something happened, and there's all these historical documents that date to thousands of years ago. And instead of, so now you take monotheism, hey, there's only one God, let's split all these books up, have these people read that book, these people read that book, these people read that book. That way they can't see what's over here, which is what, do not feed the politicians. But you know what I mean? And that's why, when I say this out loud, without there being any context to it, you could be like, wow, Zach, you're a fucking crazy hippie. You know what I mean? But when I say, like, if we are all on this timeline and we are all thinking this way and we are all seeing this shit happen around us that we're not cool with, and seeing the things that we are cool with and learning more about, how we can help other people. You know what? Okay, sure, you're 35,000 followers. They shut you out. But all right, we have a platform that we're building to be able to get people away from a social media presence on a private platform that we own, to be able to have open conversations with us so we can give them good information. And if we're having those conversations, how many other people are having those conversations? And I think that, truthfully, and this sounds ridiculously crazy, but I think that's our purpose. I think that's our why. I think that is why we're on this planet. I think that's why we met, through Andy Ryan, through Galaxy Labs, the guy who owns Galaxy Labs. Like,
I love that guy.
What? The bad dude gets met through the galaxy to meet the slank. Like,
yeah.
Like, what? And so I just say it all the time. Like, I think when we did like our first conversation with me and you, I think it was like a FaceTime, and all in like
no, you called me and we talked on the phone for like 4 hours. Are you talking
no,
about the
that,
first
but
time
I'm saying the first time me and you ever did like a screen recording for people to see our interaction.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, and you were like, man, it only got this many people. And I was like, but they watched the whole thing. Like, these are people that like if somebody's watching this right now and they can take part in this conversation, I doubt they've heard these sort of talks come from anybody else openly, that are willing, that have brands that are out in front of companies and saying like, yo, we're going to talk about this. Sure, we have no reach. We're not a Mike Lindell or anything like that, but it's the principle of saying, like, I don't give a fuck. If you don't agree with the shit I'm saying, don't buy my product. Don't come to my store.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm not going to be offended. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like same with you. I'm not going to sit here and ever say I'm sorry for thinking these things or saying these things. I think that everything should be openly discussed. That's the house that I was raised in, is that you should be able to, if it came out of your mouth, you better be able to defend your position.
Yeah.
And nowadays it's turned into like nobody can talk about anything, and now you have fake interactions, and it's just like, I refuse. I have kids now. I refuse to let my children grow up in a world like that. I refuse.
Yeah. Everybody's offended and everything else.
All right. What's our timer at? Because I'm sure we like hit our limit. We covered a bunch of good things.
I know. So good.
Good one. All right. Well, so let's wrap this whole thing up. So, all right. If you've never heard me, my name is Zach Leeds. You can follow me _0 ZERO 311. It stands for 0311 Infantry Rifleman. I am the owner of Bad Dude Co. It's a pretty dope website. Sell a bunch of supplements, including this man's brand, Slankomania. Introduce yourself.
All day, every day. And if you guys want to follow me, Big Slank, and then Big Slank Fit on TikTok, slankomania.com for all your supplements and coaching needs. I just dropped the platform. It should be coming out by the time people see this, for new coachings. Got training, videos, custom diets, and all that jazz, accountability. So you guys want to check that out, you can hit me up and I will get you situated with all your fitness needs. And then what else was there? Oh, our School of Bodybuilding. If you guys want to
Yes.
join in for that, we got Max Fairchild, your friend, on there. I got my friend Marcus. He has a bunch of clients, trying to get those people in there.
Mhm.
Anybody wants feedback on their training, nutrition stuff, PED help, or whatever, I have exercise videos in there. You guys can post your exercise videos in there. We can give you feedback on proper form and intensity. Uh,
Mhm.
and just it's just an open platform
It's
to
a
communicate
it's
with
it's
each
a
other.
really great thing. Ever since I've been on it, guys, look, things on Instagram and stuff just get like yanked down for no freaking reason. It's a very user friendly platform. I am computer and technology illiterate, and it was simple for me, other than spelling Slank's name as Spank at one point.
I fingered it.
but listen, no, but listen, it's going to be complete 100% transparent PED talks. Everything's going to be on the table there. Good chance Mark Alvisi will be the next person to come on. He was Mr. USA, turned pro in the mid 2000s. He's the owner of Happy Banana. But yeah, that's
We could even make a channel in there to talk about the stuff we're talking about now for anybody that has questions and all that jazz too.
yeah. I just, for everybody, we want you to know we're going to keep the hear me out side of this as more of the weird conspiratorial stuff. We're going to try to do it weekly. We think that's a really good idea. We want to be able to incorporate recent events and current events with some of the deeper rabbit hole stuff. It makes it a lot easier. Like, hey, this is what's happening now. Hey, let's like quick pierce into this. Give us some feedback in the comments. Hit us up if you're friends with us. Tell us what you think. I enjoy doing it. I don't care if anybody watches this. We're gonna do this again anyways.
I love it.
All right, brother man. Love you. Mwah.
Love you too, buddy. I'll see you later.
Bye.